Hello everyone to the second video topic. I've already screwed up the first 10 seconds of my video. Wow. This, by the way, is right after I'm recording this right after what the heck? Oh, someone has a motorcycle. No, that's not a motorcycle, that's a car. Just a moment, this will only be like a second or two for you guys, but this dude's playing with his vehicle. Okay, that was interesting. Anyway, the birds are still there, but this is a continuation of my little discussion from the previous video, talking about a possible farmer and baker's update. Last video I was talking about rotten mold very minorly, but I also was talking about things like a new animal, new mechanics for baking and making food. This time I'll be focusing more on the farming aspect instead of the baking aspect and the things I was talking about last time. It's essentially a continuation of the previous video. Anyway, let's begin at the very beginning. Well, for this video. I believe last time I left off talking about new trees and new possible plants within the game. What would be more annoying than another creature? More specifically, the crow. The crow is essentially an airborne rabbit, and it will steal your food while it's still growing. It will steal your sunflower seeds. It will steal your grains. It will be annoying. Of course, there's a good chance crows may not get into the game in this update, but it's it's still a possibility. Obviously, right now I'm talking about animals, so I'm also going to talk about another possible animal that could be added into the game. This animal being the duck. We have the chickens and they act like ducks at the same time. But that doesn't really work in the game anymore, does it? They're literally called chickens. Also, look, geese. Wait, can you see them? There they are. Geese. Geese. I'm a dork. Anyway, like I was saying, a duck. We would actually get a full-fledged waterborne animal. Well, we already have the dolphins, but it could be totally possible that in the game we can have a distinction between ducks and chickens. Chickens already give us eggs and chicken. Durr. But ducks, when killed, could be the ones instead giving us feathers, as ducks are more well known for actually flying than chickens. And again, it doesn't really matter. Maybe ducks can drop, well, duck. And it provides more health than chicken does because it's a larger bird. Possibly we could also add another small little critter. This one though, not actually being that much of a pest. Quail. It would be quail. Quails are very small birds and would most likely be a rare bird. Quail could give you less hunger, but course, due to it being a rare and delectable delicacy in plenty of places in the world, something unique would happen when you eat this particular bird. What would happen is your health stays up for longer. It won't drain as fast after eating quail. Of course, this could also be applied to any kind of thoroughly cooked item. The thing that I forgot to mention last time was burning. It should totally be a thing you can do in the game. You could totally burn your food. Of course, this would be annoying. But there has to be more annoyances within the game in order to make it a little more challenging. It may totally be possible that whenever you decide to cook food, you could come out if you decided to leave it in the cooking for too long, it could burn. Of course, everything would have its own length time and how long it needs to cook. Why am I burping so many times? Gee Louise. What was I talking about again before the geese distracted me and the burps? Oh, right. Well, darn it. I lost my train of thought. But I could go on to a different topic. Oh, right. I was talking about burning your stuff. Right. Everything would have a required amount of time to be cooked. Everything would be different because not everything is the same size. Beef is not the same size as mutton. Pig is not the same size as quail. Different animals are different sizes. Different vegetables are also different sizes. And everything would have its extended time before it can also become burnt. Then a burnt food item is not as useful as its correctly cooked relative. Well, not really relative, it was cooked prior. You just decided not to take it out of the cooker thing. I've also thought up of a name within like 5 minutes or something. And I've decided a name for this special crafting table. It is the cooking station. That only applies to food. So there's that. Anyway, I could also talk about something else. Because earlier, I believe it was in the previous video, I was talking about foods going bad. Milk can also spoil. However, unlike the other foods, when they go bad, they are almost completely useless and cannot even be given to most things. Most likely the only creature that will actually accept the bad food will be a pig, which makes sense. It's a pig. But as I was saying, when milk goes bad, milk essentially becomes two parts: the curd and the whey. The curd is the stuff that floats on top of the whey, and curd can be made into cheese. I don't know what whey can be made into. I believe whey can be made into alcohol, which I don't think we want alcohol in an E10+ game. I don't think it would be very smart to add alcohol, because then it all of a sudden becomes a teen game like Terraria. Because Terraria has alcohol. But this is not about Terraria, this is about Minecraft. Anyway, like I was saying, milk can go bad, but for milk, it's not the end. If milk goes bad, it becomes curds and whey. curds and whey can then be separated, most likely using the cooking station. I'm just gonna call it a cooking station. Using the cooking station, and milk, those curds and whey, now separated, can be made into different things. Curds can be made into cheese, which essentially is able to stay a whole lot longer than milk can. Possibly, cheese can be used as a special item that's also a last-ditch effort. I don't know what we could use whey for, but non-gone bad, non-spoiled milk can also be made into butter. For this, we may need a butter churner, or once again, well, a cooking station. Maybe we would have to use a stick or a shovel acting as a spoon. However, it could totally be possible that spoons can be created. A wooden button plus a stick. That makes sense, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but it somewhat makes sense. A spoon or a shovel, why a shovel though, but it would have to be a wooden shovel. Any other type would kind of be a waste. Why would you put a diamond shovel just to make your butter? Anyway, you can now use this butter to make different cooking stuff. Anyway, now going all the way back to the beginning of this video, I was talking about different plants that can exist within the game. Because I mentioned apples, you may be a little confused because of what apples come from within the game. In the current game, when you chop down a tree and collect all of its logs, those empty leaves will eventually start disappearing, and you could also destroy them yourself. They have a chance of dropping a sapling or an apple. But in this little update, that tree could specifically be an apple tree. And when you go up to that very particular tree, you can collect the apples. You may be able to do something similar with things like oranges and lemons and limes and other fruits. Another thing that's totally possible in this update are baskets. Baskets are specifically for carrying around fruits and vegetables. And I imagine a basket can be easily held in the offhand. Of course, it could be only filled with fruits and vegetables. Nothing else works, and they must also be fresh. They cannot be going bad. That makes enough sense, hopefully. I don't know what this thing is saying. I was doing something dumb. Anyway, the basket could easily hold a lot of fruits and vegetables, and could be essentially an easy shulker box. A basket could be placed and then filled up with fruits and vegetables, then picked right back up and put into your inventory. Of course, baskets will be able to hold a lot of fruits and vegetables to make them actually worthwhile. Possibly they could hold up the same amount of space that a shulker box can, but like I said, it's only for fruits and vegetables. It works for nothing else. It would essentially be an early game shulker box, as most likely it can be made with grass, or possibly even string. Which somewhat makes sense, because of how some baskets are actually made. I thought I heard something. It's most likely the birds. Anyway, like I was saying, baskets. They would be such an interesting thing to add into the game. Because it's, like I said, an early game shulker box. However, it can only hold very specific items. As I will say again, fruits and vegetables. It would be really easy to make. I assume all you would need in order to collect the items, all you need is a shear, cut down some grass, and then use that grass, most likely in the same pattern that you would for a chest plate, to get yourself a good old basket. It seems simple enough. It's an early game, essentially an early game shulker box. Like I'm continuously saying, like an idiot, because I cannot get my mind straight. Didn't I do the same thing in the Amoeba Boys are OP video where I just ranted on about the same thing again and again and again? I think that's what I did in that video. But as I was saying, this would be a very, very interesting thing to add. Anyway, on to another part. Like I was saying earlier, you would need very particular trees to grow very particular fruits. But then there comes another thing. How exactly would you harvest these fruits and vegetables, or the fruits, without taking down the tree with you? Maybe if you were next to the tree's log or underneath its leaves, excuse me, and you notice that the leaves had apples or whatever fruit it was. I need to stop burping. Whatever fruit it may be, you could just right click with nothing in your hand and boom, now you got all the fruits of labor. And there's another thing. These particular trees would have to be watered or near water all the time. Possibly, in order to grow these particular trees, they have to be on a farmland. I imagine that the farmland would either be 2x2 or 3x3, with the tree being placed in the middle, or the sapling of that tree, maybe the seeds of the fruit. I probably haven't discussed it yet, but maybe I have. But I imagine with the fruits and vegetables that have seeds in them, if you decide to eat them, all of a sudden you got the seeds of whatever that may be. So if you, instead of having to put a watermelon into the crafting table and then do the thing, all of a sudden you have the seeds. Instead, you could actually use that slice of melon and then use it to eat. And then all of a sudden you got your seeds. I imagine that other fruits would work the same way. It would definitely be a very interesting thing. I don't think I've talked about it yet, but I also think I have, but there's a part of this whole thing that I was talking about earlier, I think, where some plants, when you harvest them, don't completely go away. Now the hoe is pretty much useless for the most part. All it does is till the soil. Maybe the hoe can also be used like a scythe. In the past, scythes were used to harvest crops, more specifically ground crops. You could use the hoe on fully grown crops, excluding the fruits, of course, and could simply and easily cut the crops. That's all I really have for this video. And I hope you all enjoyed it too. It was a very interesting idea process. Wow! And I may talk about updates that I'd like at a later point in time. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe, then click the bell thingy. You know the deal. At least I think you guys do, because you've watched plenty of other YouTubes. Oh, that's on your first, then yay! That's good. Ah! Bye! Ignore my tripping back there.